Hello and welcome to the British Dapper, and today we're talking about lack of confidence buying your first suit. So maybe you've got to buy a suit, you're a little bit reluctant to it or even very unsure about the whole process. You'd lack that self-confidence to go to a store and buy that suit. We've all been there. We've all experienced that feeling. And today's video is about how to address those concerns that you may have about buying your first suit. I understand your hesitation. It's not a normal thing if it's a first time experience, and if you've never had anybody there to show you the way to go about buying a suit or to accompany you in that process, then it is quite a daunting task to take on. However, you're not the first and you certainly won't be the last to have that experience. So let's just highlight a few of the benefits of wearing a suit. And it does create an image that's going to stand out. So you're going to be noticed. It's going to give you some self-confidence, some self-esteem. It's going to make you stand out a little bit more from your co-workers or even your colleagues, your friends. But it's always going to get you positive feedback. Friends, colleagues, especially at weddings, funerals, those sort of places, you're going to get positive feedback and comments on the way that you present yourself whilst wearing that suit. So a well-fitted suit is going to always increase your professional image. It's going to make you stand out a little bit more than most of your friends or colleagues or even your employers. Whilst it has an impact on your self-esteem in that it'll improve your self-esteem, it also really does make a lot of difference in your personal and professional life. Now, I can assure you everybody has to start somewhere, especially when it comes to suits. So there is no easy way about doing this, because buying your first suit is the first time you're going to do it. But with today's video, I'm hoping to give you a few little tools and tips that may help you feel more confident in going through that process. And you should bear in mind that self-confidence takes time to grow and it needs to be nurtured, and that is nurtured by experience and the gathering of information. So personally, I've had a journey that's gone through wearing suits for many years. But even now, sometimes I feel a bit awkward depending on where I'm going and the environment. For example, the store itself. If I'm going into a place that's high end, then I do feel a little bit uncomfortable sometimes because, let's be honest, it's an artificial environment. But if you haven't worn a suit for a long time, you still get those butterflies every now and again when you put it on, especially if you're wearing it in an environment where a lot of people don't wear them anymore. But it's all part of the experience, and once you start wearing a suit and you wear it regularly, you become more and more confident with that process of wearing a suit and going to places. So when it comes to buying that suit, it comes down to a few things you really need to take into consideration. Now, obviously, budget is going to be one of those things. I would always advocate spending as much as you possibly can on your suit. It's a long-term investment, and whilst you can buy cheaper suits, it's not always going to be, in the long term, the best purchase. Now, with that, there are a few caveats. So fit is always going to be primarily one of the things you need to look at. A good fitting suit is going to last you and really look good for a lot of years. This suit that I'm wearing today, as you can see here, is a suit that I've had for about 15 years, still wears well, and it's all about the fit. The shoulders fit nicely, nice straight line from the back of the neck to the shoulder, and it's a well presented suit. So fit is always going to be one of your primary concerns when you're buying that suit. Your body type is also something to take into consideration. If you're a very tall person, or if you're a very short person, or if you're rather a large person, then I wouldn't necessarily go for a skinny suit if you're a larger person. Or if you are a short person, then there are things you need to weigh up when you're buying that suit. If you're quite a broad-chested person, then maybe you want to go for more of a classic look rather than those skinny or slim fit suits. So the other thing to consider is your lifestyle. How often are you going to wear that suit? What do you want that suit for? So is it primarily for interviews, weddings, funerals, the odd occasional wear but in a very formal setting? Or are you buying that suit for a more casual, everyday wear? Or are you buying a suit that's just for fun, parties, weekends, that sort of thing? Because depending on what you're choosing depends on the colour and the style of the suit. Now generally most people only buy a suit when they need it for a formal occasion, so for a job interview. So therefore you're going to really be looking at a mid to charcoal grey suit or a plain navy suit. Now that can cover you for all of those suggestions. So it's not only for the very formal, but the informal suit wear and the more casual suit wear. The difference is how we accessorise that to create a different look or feel or vibe. So the other thing to consider is your comfort level wearing a suit. So that I'm going to come on to in a little bit later in more detail about how we can build up your self-esteem, your confidence, and that will improve your feeling of comfort wearing a suit. But if we're talking about comfort in the sense of how you feel wearing it, if it's too restrictive or too baggy, you're going to feel awkward. So that comes back to fit, and when we're talking about fit, it really is about having a nice silhouette. So if you're wearing a suit and it's all ruffled up in the arms or in the back of the jacket, or you get gaping like this, then they're not good looks, they're not good fits. Yeah, so you want that nice crisp look all the time. So nice clean lines, very few ruffles. If you're getting ruffles, it's because the suit's not fitted to you personally. So your body doesn't meet the typical, stereotypical measurements they've used to create that suit in a factory. So you don't meet the template, and not many people do. So the idea is to get the best fit possible if you're buying off the rack. Now bespoke is completely different because you're talking about going to a tailor and they will design that suit around your body contours, and it will fit you exactly how it should do. There should be no ruffles, there should be no gaping, it should be a good fit. So for example, if you've got bellowing here, that's because something's not quite right in this chest upper area, or the fact is the belly area is not fitted very well on the jacket and it raises it up because it's resting on a little bit of a paunch maybe. So that means maybe getting a slightly larger jacket. or maybe even consider having it let out in a few places if everything else fits. Now, we're not all fashion models. That brings me on to the fact that the fit is really going to encapsulate you looking your best, presenting yourself in the really best way. So, for example, the jacket length in the sleeve should fit just right. So we're talking about 1/2 inch difference between the shirt and the sleeve length. Yeah. So that's a good sign to look for. The shoulders I've already mentioned. The other thing to consider is the trousers. Now, a belt or side adjusters, or are you going to wear braces? These all affect the drape of the trousers. Now, whilst the waist might fit, if it's too tight in the hips and the buttock area, your trousers are going to make you look a little bit unusual, because the pockets actually, instead of being flush with your body, will angle out, they'll bellow out a little bit, and you end up with little ears. Yeah. Now that is not a good look, and that is a good indicator that the trousers are too tight in the hip area, hip and thigh area. So maybe consider going up a size and maybe having some minor tailoring done to take it in a little bit in the nipped in at the waist. The other thing is the length of the trousers. Really, we need to make sure that they break, in other words, where the trousers meet the shoe at the right place. Now, there's high fashion at the moment is that there's no break, so you see a little bit of sock or even a bit of bare ankle. Now, that's not a good look for that professional image that you're trying to create for the job interview. Okay, so there we're looking at a full break, which is where the trouser meets the shoe exactly, or maybe a little bit higher than that, where it's a couple of lace loops down from the top of the shoe, and that will give you a very good aesthetic on the actual overall drape of the trouser where it meets the shoe. We want to avoid pooling, which is obviously going to be where those trousers are too long for you and they scrunch up at the bottom of the trouser where it all pulls together. And it's not a very complimentary look. So whilst it might be like that in the fitting room, need to consider that you might need some minor alterations to get them adjusted. And it's not that expensive to get done. A seamstress would be able to do it. Some people in store do the adjustments or arrange for the adjustments as well. I offer you, with this channel, a number of videos that may help you. It's a library, if you like, for you to cash in on. And so, if you're not sure, I have a video covering other aspects of suits and wearing suits, and you're welcome to use those. But I'd also mention that other people have channels as well. I would say the Chap's Guide with my friend Ash is a good channel to obviously use. He gives some really practical advice, and also another colleague, Big Pretty Timothy Crow. Now, he is a lifestyle consultant for the extra large man. Tim is a great character. He really puts his advice across at a grassroots level that everybody can relate to. So even if you're not an extra large person, the advice he gives is really good, sound advice. But there are many out there, so don't feel that you're isolated on this subject. Let's suggest that you've bought that suit, but you're still not very confident in wearing it or going out in it. Now, it doesn't take a lot of imagination to think how we can improve our circumstances. So, for example, you could practice wearing that suit at home. You could stand in front of a mirror and use that as a way of honing down the skills of wearing that suit. So it's not just a case of putting the suit on, it's trying different ties, trying different pocket squares, and maybe changing the colour of the shirt. And with that, I've got a few quick looks here for you to change your everyday wear. So in this case, we've got a pocket square here that's complements the suit. We've got a white shirt on, and we've got a yellow and blue, gold blue pattern tie. Now the actual pocket square has actually got some blues in it, but it's got more bronze colours in there and golds, but they complement each other and it works well as a look. So this is probably, with the 4-in-hand knot, it's a more of a middle of the road look. So I'm going to give you two other looks that you could wear with a blue suit, just to give you an idea. So by just changing the tie for a more formalised tie and using a white handkerchief, we give it a much more formal look. And you can see with the black brogue shoes, and you've got quite an official look. Great for an interview or possibly something along those lines. If you work in an environment where you need to wear a suit, then this would be quite an acceptable look. To the other extreme though, if it's just like a business informal look that you're going for, and it's pretty much your everyday business, you can change the shirt. It doesn't have to be a white one. The white gives it a more formal look, but you could change it for a coloured shirt. And in this case, I'm going to look at maybe a light blue shirt, and we're going to put in with that a red tie. Now, I know what people are going to say: red tie, par tie, I don't like wearing that because it makes me look like I'm trying to dominate the people that I work with. Well, that's not necessarily the case. I'm going to use something that is along the lines, I believe the Americans call it a rep tie, representative tie, whereas in the UK we tend to call them club ties or something along those lines. So different look, different vibe. So with this look, we're just using a pale blue shirt, same suit, we're using that rep tie. It's a striped tie. This one's got some creams in it and some black lines as well as the red. So we picked up in here blues to match the colour of the suit. There's a few red dots in here and a little bit of cream, so it should all pull together quite nicely, and it's pretty much a typical day at the office look. It's not particularly officious, but it's a good overall look. I wouldn't suggest it's a sort of look for an interview, but for general everyday work in an office environment, this is perfectly acceptable. Pair that with the black brogues and you've got a very effective item in your wardrobe. The blue suit can carry off most looks. So something else to consider is if you're going for that important job interview or a eulogy at a funeral or something along those lines, then maybe it's something to consider with a bit of role play. So you could practice the interview, but not just the words and the interview process, but also dressing for the part as well. And maybe with a friend or a colleague or maybe even a family member, go through the scenario that you're going to be confronted with in real life later on. So building confidence is a slow and progressive journey. So once you've got through the process of buying the suit and we're now looking at wearing the suit, just bear in mind the benefits it's going to give you. all the time you're going to be able to put over a professional image if you're going into a professional situation. You're going to look like you're the boss when you go into a room, wedding or something along those lines, rather than not looking as your best. Your self-esteem is going to build with time, and your confidence with that as well. And you're not going to feel uncomfortable going to those situations wearing a suit in the future. And it is a progressive thing, but it does take time and it does take experience. So you might not start off by wearing that pocket square or a loud tie, for example, or a coloured shirt. But they're all on that sartorial journey we are all on. As you get more confident, you will become more experimental with your colours, your colour palettes, and the way that you exude self-confidence to others. One of the first things I would say is a suit is a statement piece. So you really need to present yourself wearing that suit. It's designed for you to stand and move in a certain way. So if you're hunched over, you're not going to get a very good fit in the front. Yeah. So stand up, get the shoulders back. Yeah. Stand tall. Even if you're short like me, but stand tall, because it is all about that confidence and bringing the best out in you. Put the chest out a little bit, It is all about you giving the best you can. Now, the suit is a good tool to add in that professionalism, to create a spark of interest from others. So, for example, if you're going out on a date or something like that, wearing a suit in the right environment really does hit all the marks for a lady. Women do like a man in a suit. There's no denying that. And it does make you look like the boss when you walk into that room. Now, on the sartorial side, as you get more proficient at wearing a suit, for example, you might start off by buying one in store, you might buy one off eBay, you might end up then getting it tailored to be a bit more specific to you. All the time you're moving up that sartorial journey. So then you start wearing pocket squares. Then you start changing the colour of your shirt. That confidence comes and builds with time. And before you know it, you start to move towards saving up for a really good suit, a bespoke made suit. And then, it's all a progression. You might start wearing a hat, but you're starting to progress and advance. And it's all a learning process, depending on the level of formality. But when you think about it, if you're wearing a suit and you're wearing it really well, and your confidence is there, your self-esteem is not damaged, you are literally invincible when you go into that interview room. As long as you know your subject matter, when you're in that room, the overall package is enhanced by wearing that suit and wearing it well. So don't underestimate the power of the suit. And my final words here of trying to help and inspire others to wear a suit is that confidence comes with time, and you're not always going to feel awkward about wearing a suit. It is practice and exposure to wearing a suit that is going to reinforce your self-confidence and your self-esteem over time. But I can assure you, within a few days of wearing a suit, you'll transition yourself from being very uncomfortable or not confident wearing a suit to being okay with it. And even once you start getting those compliments from other people when you're wearing a suit, you will then start building that self-confidence. Your self-esteem will go through the roof. Your posture will change, the way you present yourself, your image that you create, being the boss, walking around, is going to really be of great benefit to you in the long run. What I would say is, if there's any issue you want to discuss, I just said it earlier, but I will reinforce it, jot it down below and we'll get back to you as quickly as we can. But if you don't want to put it in the comments because it's a little bit private, then always email me. The email address is available on the channel, and I'll try and address your concerns as best I can. If I can't answer your question, I'll always try and signpost you to somebody else that I feel might be able to assist. So please don't suffer in silence. There are people out there that genuinely want to help you. Everybody's journey and self-confidence is unique to them. So I appreciate my journey won't be the same as somebody else's. And for you, I offer my support on your journey to building up that self-confidence and get out there wearing that suit. So if you enjoyed the channel, then give us a thumbs up. We love subscriptions, so if you'd like to subscribe, please feel free to do so. If you want to make a comment, jot it down below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So until next time, take care.